Welcome to the Success in Africa podcast with Dr. Modupe, your weekly dose of leadership vitamins to make you successful in Africa.
Hello and welcome to the Success in Africa podcast episode 40. My name is Dr. Modupe Taylor Pierce and I am a scholar and practitioner of leadership and organizational development. Simply put, I study what makes people successful. I have been studying this for 3 decades with a particular focus on people in Africa. And in this podcast, I will share stories, lessons, and insights about people having success in Africa. Why this podcast? Because I am sick and tired of Africa being the poorest continent in the world. We are blessed with the greatest resource, young people. Africa will soon have the largest number of working age people in the world. And when these people achieve success, watch out. Africa's wealth will be unparalleled. Why? Because I don't know of too many Africans whose goal in life it is to die poor. You see, success in life is simply the achievement of a predetermined goal, whether that goal is owning a house and a car, or creating employment for 1,000 people, or transforming your country into a high-income country. This podcast has been created to help you to achieve it. So, if you are serious about achieving success in Africa, I want you to subscribe to this channel. If you like this video after you've watched it, please click the like button. This podcast is brought to you courtesy of BCA Leadership, the largest leadership enhancement company in Africa. If you have questions that you want me to answer after watching this video, just log on to BCA Online, the link is on the screen, and post your questions there. That is where I will answer your questions. Today, I'm going to address some selected comments or questions that some of you have posted in response to the podcasts on BCA Online, and also you posted some of these on our YouTube channel. I do this once a quarter, just selecting 2 or 3 questions or comments that look particularly intriguing and answering them or expounding on them. Now, remember, in the last 13 weeks, I have shared a series on raising expansion capital. Also, we shared a series on finding great employees. Remember the 5 C's? And we also shared a series on governance. So, I specifically chose, comments or questions related to these ones. So I apologize if yours wasn't selected. Rest assured, if you post on BCA Online, I will respond there. The first question comes from William, who commented on the importance of governance. He says, while he agrees that a functioning governance structure is a must for sustainable success and growth in business, he asks, can an entrepreneur set up a small mastermind group to function as a board? And then William goes on to define what he considers to be a mastermind group. And he says that a mastermind group is a small group of people that you trust to have good judgment, and usually you seek out their views and opinions on your business moves, especially as it regards growth. So again, his question is, can an entrepreneur set up a small mastermind group to function as a board? So, thank you first of all, William, for your question. William, you've used the term mastermind, which is originally coined in 1925 by the author Napoleon Hill in his book, The Law of Success. And he defined it as the coordination of knowledge and effort in the spirit of harmony between 2 or more people for the attainment of a definite purpose. Now, to answer William's question directly, let me say this. While mastermind groups are incredibly useful and they have lots of similarities to a board, there are also some key differences between a mastermind group and a board that make the board more effective for the purposes of supporting a business or organization to grow and flourish. Both of them involve people who offer advice to the entrepreneur and to the business. However, a board differs from a mastermind group in terms of responsibility, authority, and credibility, in the sense that board members agree to serve on a board and their names and reputations may be used to give credibility to an organization. This is not something you can do with a mastermind group. Additionally, board members, especially those who are properly trained on how to be good board members, they will not limit the topics of discussion in meeting with you, the entrepreneur, to only subjects that you, the entrepreneur or founder, want to discuss. In other words, they concern themselves with areas like risk management, as well as the fun areas like opportunity mining. I know that most founders, usually they want advice on how to mine opportunities. And frankly, they only bring up areas of risk or bad news long after the risk has turned fully sour into a major problem. So there's value in having a board and not just a mastermind group, because the board will, in a sense, force you to look at those risk areas early enough in the process before they become big problems for the business. I hope that helps to answer your question, William. Let's go to the second one. Ooh, time is far spent. Okay, second comment comes from Emmanuel, who made a comment about funding for business growth. So Emmanuel says that from his own experience, finding funding is one of the biggest challenges for an entrepreneur. See, he explains that he had a business, he got an order from a customer, had no cash to finance the order. And he found a way, he went around to people who had the funds, but not the time or ability to deliver the order themselves. But the key thing he said, which made it interesting to me, is he made these people partners instead of just taking their money as loans. And he shares that this structure gave him the advantage of not having to worry about cash flow to pay back the loans on time, since the money came in as equity. And as he put it, this was a big advantage because in the event of delayed payments, to the business, he wasn't under the pressure to have to pay, or frankly, to pay extra interest charges to these creditors if they had been, if it had been a loan. Another listener, Jackson, also says, in commenting on that comment, that actions and decisions taken now matter for the future, and good leaders make informed choices. So when I read these comments, it really inspired me to share a bit of perspective about the choice that Emmanuel made. I've already shared in previous podcasts that the cheapest money that a business can get is loan funding. And that equity funding is usually quite expensive. This is theoretically true, but there are sometimes exceptions, and these exceptions are due to some of the nuances in Africa. You see, Emmanuel is correct in expressing that when a business gets capital in the form of loans, it creates pressure on the business to pay off the loans and to make the interest payments on time or face extra penalties. This does cause stress for the entrepreneur. If the money were received as equity, then the partner shares risk as well as reward. But the reward, when it's usually going to be quite high for the investor. However, unfortunately in Africa, many people have taken other people's money, made them partners, and then essentially cheated them out of their money by siphoning funds from the business themselves as they run the business. And the investment partners are typically helpless to do anything if they learn about it, because of the weakness in our legal structures in many African countries that make going to court, frankly, unattractive, time-consuming, and expensive. Many investors have experienced this when they invested in businesses in Africa, especially on a small scale and in businesses associated with petty trading and or transportation. I cannot tell you how many people I know who have funded the purchase of a taxi, a bus, a motorbike, fishing net or produce for a business partner who accepted the money to expand or start their business, and these investors have never seen their money again or received a dividend. This is why when you are considering providing investment capital to a business in Africa, and I'm speaking to you if you're considering being an investor into a business, especially a minority investor, always look for the village surrounding that business. What do I mean by the village? The village is the governance structure of that business. It is the collection of the people who collectively will provide a guarantee for the optimal use of the capital based on their collective reputations and expertise. You see, if the entrepreneur can only show you one or two people, in addition to himself or herself, that will put their money or reputation on the line for the business, then you may be better advised to refrain from investing in that business. Even micro-lending institutions have learned this important lesson. They do not lend to individuals who come to ask for money without the security of the village. The village are the group of 3 or more people who collectively will place their reputations or their opportunities to get funding themselves on the line for vouching for the viability of the receiving business and the commitment of the use of the funds for their proper purpose. Collectively, they will function as the board of the company and ensure that the entrepreneur does not simply keep them at arm's length until there's a problem. They will proactively check in with the entrepreneur to ensure that the business is performing well because they have a stake in the success of the business. So, back to Emmanuel's comments. I don't know whether Emmanuel had a village to offer to the people who gave him money for his business. I don't know the intricacies of the business to be able to say definitively whether he would have been better off taking the money as a loan or as equity. What I do know is that when investing in African entrepreneurs, in African businesses, and African startups, every investor should look first to find the village capital already invested in the business. And that is the collection of people who know the founder well enough to collectively lend their names and reputations to be board members of that business. You see, the existence of this village gives the business a better chance of attracting and properly utilizing the capital it may need to grow. As Jessica, another listening commenter, says, a good leader stimulates and inspires others to support and follow her or him to achieve extraordinary outcomes. If somebody comes to you claiming that they have a good business and they need your money, but they do not have village capital, then you may want to think long and hard about whether that person is really a good leader. And frankly, if they're not, then your investment into that person's business will not be in safe hands. Does it mean that you are guaranteed to lose your money? No. As with any risk, you can take some risks and still survive. Some people text and drive, drink and drive, and they do it for many years and they survive. But if you follow risky behavior for long enough, you will get burned. So, my suggestion to you or my advice to you for success in Africa as an investor is make sure that any business you are investing in has a village surrounding it. That village of good governance. People who have invested their time or their talent or their treasure into the business and provide those guardrails, risk management, that will ensure that the founder utilizes the funds properly as they were meant to be utilized. We've now come to the end of today's podcast. I do hope you've learned a few lessons and acquired some tips on how to find the capital that you need to grow your business or to be able to get the right governance for your business or to find the right people to staff your business. Next week, we're going to start a new series on political economies. See, to be successful over the long term in Africa requires you to have an understanding of the political economy of the countries in which your business operates. I'm going to make this case by profiling 4 successful Africans who have demonstrated an understanding of political economies and in some cases have leveraged them to build and sustain successful organizations. I want to thank you for listening or watching this podcast. Please don't forget to subscribe to this channel and like this video. Tell your friends about it because together we can transform our beloved continent of Africa. See you next week.
Tomorrow belongs to those people who prepare for it today. See you next week.